9, 10. 1, 2. Reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, and stop. Okay? Cross, knees, circular movements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, and stop. Okay, hands on your waist. Turn to your left. Turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Center tilt to the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Center rotating. 1, 2, 3. Reverse. 1, 2, 3. Center, hands up. Pull in, inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, spread your feet. Turn your shoulders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, stop. Stretch it out. Switch. 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 Switch, straighten front knee. Switch. 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 Okay, center. Okay, shake it out. Okay, hands up, pull in, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Okay, shoulder roll. Reverse. And center. Okay, press, release, exhale, inhale. And stop. Hands up. Pull in, inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Okay, wrists, circular movements. Reverse. Okay, palms down. Circular movements, big circles, way up high. And stop. Okay, shake it out. Deep breathing, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Okay, we're going to shift from side to side. So try to get your hip to shift so it actually shifts inside, because it's if it's like this, then you're actually not working that joint, because once you get over here, then you have your vertical line. So that builds some flexibility, but then it gives you finding that position so that your body starts to recognize it. But it does require some flexibility there, and that's going to help your sitting stance when you have to transition across. And center. Okay, turning the waist or turning the torso. And then we're going to shift and kick. and center. Switch, other side. And center. Okay, side to side. Switch. And center. Okay, shake it out. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, silk wheeling. Forward and back. Okay, switch. Okay, center. Open and close. Okay, switch. Okay, center, circular movements. Okay, lower hoop. Shoulder height. Elbows down. And lower. Palms down. Extend. Okay, hands up, pull in, inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Okay, diagonal flying. Switch. Okay, center, cloud hands. Okay, palms down. Lift up, carry tiger to the mountain. And center. Infinity sign. Form the fist. Okay, palms together. Strum the lute. Turn, draw the bow. Okay, and to the back. Okay, raise the hand. Okay, palms down. Okay, deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, so let's go through just the regular Tai Chi Paradigm form first, because we usually go through the other way, so we'll go through that first. Ready? Preparation. Okay, deep breathing, inhale. So because the Tai Chi Paradigm form has essentially all the same movements that we have in the long form and more, in the sense that there's left side movements that we're doing that usually takes a lot longer to develop, especially if you just do the long form. Because the left side, we actually don't practice it. So the parry and punch, the cloud hands, some part the horse's mane, that's in the long form. And the short form. But the thing is, when we do these transitions, we have to just track the space and the plane of movement and when it happens. So that's the phase of the movement. So we're doing movements that's three-dimensional. We don't pick up the volume of it mainly because a lot of times we see it in 2 dimensions mainly. So what we see, the body kind of replicates what we think we see, right? So in the let's first do the parry and punch movement. So let's go through that from this position, all right? So this is, we just came off the fan through the back, and we stroke down, we invert the hand, we turn to the right or left depending on, and actually this only happens on the right side, right? So we stroke down, invert the hand as you sit back, turn to your left, exchange up and down movement there, and then turn back to center and reset the hand. All right, so we see that it turns from one side to the other, but if we practice it like this, because a lot of our drills work in pairs, tandem movements or paired movements, so we just take our hands and stroke down like this. So both hands, the center line is between the 2 hands. So if you stroke down like this, and you invert the hand, then you end up, so get it to about here, then when you invert, drop it down more. Okay, then you bring your elbows up, and it goes right up your center, and then you drop your elbows, and then you bring it down and forward. So that essentially is a circle. Like this, right? It looks like this. So this is a circle. This is a circle. This one goes up and back. This one goes up and down and forward. See, so movements are directional, but we don't actually think of it along those lines because we're just looking at the gross movement. But if you define the movement, you stroke down like this and you invert the hand and you lift the elbows up, then drop the elbows down, you created that motion. But you create the motion with the additional elbow manipulation, because the elbow really directs the movement and controls the direction of movement. So anytime the elbow is out or out like this, you're going to turn in that direction. Same applies on this side. Anytime the elbow is vertical, you have the forward and backward movement, or the up and down movement in the vertical plane. If we lift our elbows like this on the way up, once it gets to the top, like in fan through the back, or making maybe circles from top to bottom, doing, whether it's even the kicks in the 24 or any type of vertical movement. So how we track that vertical movement, how it aligns with the plane of your body, really depends on how you want to balance and stay centered. So we were doing this, and we brought our elbows too far behind us, you'll feel like you're a little bit falling backwards. If you really can't go through the center of your body, because there's a center this way too. So you can't go through the center of your body, so you would like to go as closely as you can towards your center, but there's some adaptability there where you can track your center, like in fan to the back, find your center and then not leave it. So in other words, if this hand that's your target position, and I actually veered off slightly in front of my body, I can actually turn back to the center where that point is to find that line. So movements they're kind of angular slightly because you have to, modify your position. So the same applies here. We strum the lute. We have a center line, but we don't want it this big, so we have to kind of track it, and then we adapt the body to create a profile that's much more efficient, and you're able to find that center. So the same applies here. When I stroke down here and I fold my elbow, I create that motion. So if you just did this a half a dozen times every day as part of your routine, that movement's going to get programmed into your body, right? But because Parry and Punch has a turning in the body, because when we do a single-sided movement, we have to include the waist, because the single-sided movement is really tying to something below. That means your legs. So if I'm going like this as a first line of learning the movement, the next thing I have to do is sink. And then I fold the elbows and come out, right? So at that point, if I just sink, then my elbows are going by themselves. So the next thing you should do is go down straight while the arms are elongated. So now the legs and arms are fairly straight, and then you fold, and you bend your knees. And then you go forward. So then you tie in the lower to the upper. That's upper-lower coordination. But because we have a movement that's going forward and then it's coming towards you, the torso can be fairly rigid. So you have to hollow your chest and round the back. So rounding is this. See, when we go down and we fold, then the rounding would allow you to go a little bit backwards in order to go forward, right? So that ties your body. So this is emptying and then filling in the arm side of the movement. We think of filling and emptying on the legs because we're always talking about shifting a weight. But you have to empty the movement also in the body in order to reconnect. So then there's that relationship. That's what volume and multi-dimensional movement become, because not only do you have up and down, you have forward and back, right? But we also have right and left if we were to turn. So we don't have a left side movement, so what should we do? How can we practice that? We have to practice turning and then turning back to center, turning, fold, and back to center. So we go forward, down, and we turn, and then we turn. Your timing should be such that you have to bring your movement dimensionally following those planes of motion, and then finish it back on your center. And then you would go down and invert the hand and come forward. So everything that happens in the front should happen transitionally as you begin to twist your body and hollow and round as the phase of movement. So it's done slowly to develop that relationship. Then when you actually come down and you invert the hand and you start to do this, then this hand will do the same movement. This hand that we did this becomes the secondary hand that begins to understand that it also moves, but slightly different in a plane. So what this one hand is doing is this. This hand is doing essentially what this hand would do during silk reeling, right? So all the movements that we learn and program into our body are kind of units of, so you identify with those. But once the body knows that movement and it recognizes it visually that that's supposed to happen, then it starts to pick up on something that it's learned. So that has to draw off of that. So that cross training ends up something that supplements movements that you didn't think that you knew.
Can you show us visually what you see us doing the wrong way and then doing to the
Yeah, so sometimes I see when the hand comes down, you don't know exactly when to invert it, so it might be not complete. And then when it comes back, it might be not connected to the body, and then it ends up like that. So there isn't the folding of the knees and the hands, that's upper lower, the separation of the up and down, and then the resetting of this hand. So each hand actually has its own little pattern, but you can't develop the little pattern without seeing where that pattern came from. So when we do this, in a deep breathing exercise, or this in deep breathing, if we do this like in pressing, you have this movement. So when we do this, that's that movement. But we only see it here. We have to see it here. So movements, once they're programmed into your system, your body, and the patterns are in your system, then it doesn't matter where it is. It's relative to your body, in space, based on the frontal position to 45. So if you look at this completely, if I go like this and I go like this, I'm here, this is my frontal plane, everything is happening here. So this is what we have to figure out as part of the proprioception, and what natural directional movement are. Like when we move our arms, even though we go like this, it's still in the front. When we go like this or like this, it's still relative to the shoulder width position in this space. So we lose it when we turn, because we lose perspective of what this would have been, what this would have been, because those interim positions, the body doesn't recognize it yet. Because during transition, we lose the idea that that's something that we didn't really learn, but it becomes transition. So that's just the parry and punch movement. You build that pattern into your system. And upper lower, you all been working on this. We've been doing it here. Right? And we're doing it here. Right? So this movement, and this movement, and this movement, and this movement, if it blends together, then it becomes that movement. But then you see the hand comes here. But then this hand like this. Let's sink the elbow, relax the shoulder. So when we're here and we drop our hand like this, it's a movement that we have, but we don't pay attention to it because we don't look at it as anything more than what appears to be just the infinity sign. If I go like this and I go like this, if I go like this and go like this, what is the difference? It's just where it happens. So that's why skill level evolves based on experience. So when you practice something over time, the experience becomes heightened. And then that experience becomes knowledge, and that knowledge becomes skill. So that's how people master something like this over time. But you have to know what you're looking for, in a sense, because but that's an experience. You really don't know what you're looking for because the body really doesn't recognize any of it. The body doesn't know anything. It's just skin and bones and muscles, but this is really the most important part of everything. What's inside, what's happening there, and what you take in as information. So that's kind of principles and theories that helps you begin to understand. So that's just the parry and punch movement, but yet so if you do it here in this form, you'll do it throughout the form wherever there's a parry and punch. So there's no difference. It was palm strikes face, and I do a parry and punch, and I end up like this. I went through a piece of that action, but that action is all integrated as part of it. So here you sink your elbow and you relax your shoulder, right? So in palm strikes face, and we turn, we have to shift the weight and sink the elbow and turn the body, and then end up here. Essentially the same motion, but looks different because it happened from another position. That becomes sort of a variation. So that's the Tai Chi Paradigm. So you know, keeping that in mind, you can practice that a little on your own, just to try to, because time is really what changes things. It's really frequency and time. And it takes a few weeks for that to get programmed in. It takes a few weeks for that to convert everything into that same motion. And then eventually you have that. And then once you have it, it's there. It doesn't, then it continues actually to evolve into the other movements. So you have it? You have that? Well, we don't, no, that's what I was saying, that because Parry and Punch only happens on the right side, you won't have it unless you did both sides. The most left side movements don't happen in the form because like if I do this, I can do it on both sides because, it's just through years of doing this that the left side learned it. It just crosses over. Whether you practice or not, if you practice long enough, your body has the network in there that can convert to left side movements. But you can shortcut that by learning the left side movement. So doing it like this, so you say, where is that? So someone like Eddie would know if I went like this, that's a song a double back fist in Kung Fu. So when you're here and you're here, that's a double back fist. Because I do the movements the same way that I've already programmed into my body. So from that experience that's where my training methods come from. So training methods are adopted from motions that you've learned, and then you convert those into a skill that teaches someone else an easier way to do it, because you can never pick this up unless you spend decades of this trying to discover. But most people don't do it enough to discover it because they're not doing it. You're doing recreational. On my side, I'm doing it as a teacher or it's a profession, so I have to figure out how to do it. But it's already there. But you can't discover it. So I've discovered all these things just because of the number of years I've been doing it. So then I share it as a technique, so you can learn it and then let your body become more aware. And then as you discover and you go through this process, you'll start to say, oh, that's what's going on, that's what's going on. So the learning process is, it's more systematized, more organized. Because the human body basically is pretty unorganized. That's why when we get older, we get dysfunctional. It just really doesn't know what to do. But if we knew what to do, then you're ahead of the game. So that's what that is. So you say, well, where's this position? Well, one of our Kung Fu forms has this position. And then we go like this. And we go like this. So with these movements, and then we have Mudong, we have this movement, we have this movement. All these movements, doesn't matter what style it is somewhere in the motions. Because it's the same body. Everybody has basically the same, anatomy. And movement is really generated in space, and how many different types of movement can you create. So how that looks and all that is all the timing and the preciseness of that motion. That's really relative to your body. So when we go through the center, all these the geometry of position comes into play. Now you're really putting it into perspective. But then it's transition. So those geometric shapes have to really be transformed in space to become what it is. So if you think of it along these lines, it's pretty interesting. In fact, that's, there's a science going forward on ergonomics and how we move and how you design cars, how you design machines, where it is. What table is supposed to be 30 inches high, 36 inches for a counter. All these are, they use it in design for, the architects use them, furniture designers use them. Everything is a standard. So when we do movements, there should be a standard. So that standard is how we calculate our emotions based on the geometry position, the size of our body, the shape of our body. All is because it's relative to you. So that's why it's kind of really specific to you when you learn it. And that's why everyone looks a little different. And some of it is perception. Okay, so let's do the long form. So we'll move on. Okay. step up. Okay. Okay, deep breathing. Hey, Bob, you got a question? No? You have a question? No?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe I was asleep somewhere in there. But there's one point before you step back and you don't do the first punch.
Yeah, in the beginning, right?
Did we
Yeah.
do that?
Did we do that? Yeah, we did that.
We did?
Yeah.
I was asleep.
You was just in auto mode.
That's right.
Yeah. So. Yeah, so a lot of progression is really understanding why you should do things a certain way. So learning is just, the more you understand why, the more the tendency is to do it more. So a lot of people, especially elderly people that first pick up Tai Chi, the hardest thing learning is the sequence, but they don't realize through the process and the leg work and so forth is how you improve balance, how you improve agility, but it does take work. It takes some effort. And for most people, they're going to spend more time on the things that they feel they're more achieved with, or if that's your profession, you'll focus on that. That's where most of the time is your thought is gone that way. So when I bring up a lot of these things, it's new to people because most of the time you're not focused on it. You go through it as a physical thing. So a lot of people think exercise is just for the physical side, and that's how young people work it. They want to exercise, burn calories, build a strong body, but then and it happens because they're young, but they don't really, care about the process other than, unless they're really involved in maybe taking proteins and all that stuff and supplements to change their body. But, for doing something like Tai Chi or martial arts, you're constantly evolving. And that's why Bob has been doing it for 70 years, right? Right, Bob? You've been doing this about 70 years, right?
Well,
60 something.
started when I was 25.
25. And
I'm
yeah,
85.
yeah. So it's 60 years.
60 years.
Yeah, 60 years. So time flies.
Can we do the Parry and punch one more time in this?
Yeah, sure. So we're here. So let's do one hand at a time, all right? So this hand's going to go down, right? Then it comes back and inverts. Then we turn and fold. Now, we just can't go from here. We have to start to turn till your hand ends up around 45 degrees. Then when it comes forward, the elbow continues to descend to take you into the vertical position. So you can see, if you had a mirror, let's do it to the mirror, right? When you go forward like this and you start to go backwards and you're inverting, by the time you get the vertical, your arm is pretty close to your body. Then when you turn, you fold. Then you're going to turn, unwind again. Now, it's in your legs too. Now, see, I'm passing the 45. And then as I come forward, this wants to go forward, but then I have to drop my arm into the vertical position. So some of the faults might be when you go down and you invert the hand, it's still out here. And then you can't really get it to come close enough to you to invert. So when you invert, and then maybe no bending, it just becomes a hand movement. You're already here, and then you go forward. So there's a missing phase in there. So you should go down, invert. Now, still away from your body. When you get to here, it all kind of comes together. Then here, it's fairly close, and you drop. And then you're turning, and then it comes forward. And then it has this forward, but then the elbow descends as the body starts to cover. So the forces of your body posture create the direction of the strength and the movement. Now the other hand, comes to support this elbow. Now when we invert, this arm relaxes as well. Then when I turn, this hand should go out. Now because it's here, I'm going to start going up as I go down, then I'm turning. So when this hand starts to settle, then both elbows start to drop. So then you're back. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a up and down splitting. And then this comes to here. Huh? Yeah, so you can work one side at a time, then do the other, because it has to be figured out. But the thing is, if you focus on one thing, the other side doesn't work. You focus on that side, the other side doesn't work. So it has to be somewhat, in the subconscious, the motion itself, before this hand wants to be able to come in, because this hand has to be doing it automatically. So the up and down movement which you're doing here should be already in there, so that when you go like this and you go like this, that's really what that is, right? And then you're going to come back to here. But what you added was the twist. What you added was a forward and backward. What you added was up and down. So those all are the directions of our movement, and we have to build those directions into the total posture, and then things will start to evolve. So that's, the upper-lower coordination is something should be in everything.
Thank you. There's a lot to that.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. This, if we kind of break everything, dissect everything, and look at it, you're going to say, "Wow."
It looks like it would be easy.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to it.
Yeah, because the body, if you take each component in your body, and and it has its own dimension of movement, it's almost impossible to put it on a piece of paper and program it. This does it amazingly fast by the fact that it's just taken into measure and does it. Have someone make a computer program to do that. There's probably 100,000 things that has to go into it to get those things to happen. And that's if they know what was supposed to happen. So anyways, okay.